Hi, I'm Abiola Jackson. This is the Entertainment News and Celebrity Gossip TV for Tuesday, March the 11th. Again, we have here inside the Sean Combs Hotline, the makings of a mass tort. What a heck of a headline for that. This is courtesy of the New York Times. Shout out to the New York Times for this breaking news story. Fair use. So calls to the hotline dedicated to accusations against Sean Combs are among those answered by agents at the Reciprocity City Industries. Agents have processed complaints that have turned into dozens of lawsuits. From a low-slung building in Montana, employees process sex abuse complaints against the music mogul that have been drawn to them through the advertising and a viral hotline. This is by Julia Jacobs. She's she's a writer for the New York Times from Billings, Montana, and Houston. So in a full room of cubicles, workers in a headset read from their computer screens, addressing callers who dial the 1-800 number. They do have a script. The script is, were you or your loved one sexually abused by Sean Love Combs, known as Diddy, Puff Daddy, and P. Diddy? If the abuse occurred at a party, please list the names of the party. What kind of party was it? Their employer, Reciprocity Industries, is a legal service company located in the low-slung building in Billings, Montana, more than 2,000 miles from the Brooklyn jail where Mr. Combs awaits trial on federal racketeering and sex trafficking charges. For years, the company has helped seed litigation by fielding complaints from people hurt by natural disasters, weed killers, or abusive clergy. Now it's the central collection point for sexual assault allegations against Mr. Combs. And that's the workstation there in Billings, Montana, where they field calls regarding Mr. Combs, the Mr. Combs hotline. So they're fielding thousands upon thousands of calls. And who knows if those calls are actually authentic, true calls for people who have claimed that they've been abused by Mr. Combs. Some of them could be false, some of them could be true. Who knows? In my opinion, not all of them are factual. Some of them are probably made up, in my opinion. Not all, not every one of them, but the majority, I would say, are, but not every one. Some are, some aren't. When a call related to Mr. Combs comes in, the reciprocity employees walk callers through a questionnaire that asks them to share their complaints, including potential witnesses. So some complaints come in through a phone, others arrive online in response to ads promoting on Facebook and Instagram. There's a news conference where a backdrop displayed the hotline in large red. Numbers made headlines last October. So by the company's count, it has received 26,000 contacts, deemed hundreds of complaints worthy of review. Already, the lead lawyer handling these cases, Tony Busby, a high-profile litigator from Houston, has filed nearly 40 lawsuits against Mr. Combs. He does say more are coming. So in their court filings, Mr. Combs' accusers describe a harrowing abuse. 15 plaintiffs say he raped them. 3 say they were minors at the time. The accounts are often similar: a drink at a party, unusual wooziness, and sexual assault. All were initially filed anonymously. The plaintiff had experienced a significant impact on her personal life, the lawyer said in a suit that accused Mr. Combs of assaulting a woman at a hotel in 2014. The cases against Mr. Combs, who denies assaulting anyone, amount to what's called a mass tort, in which many people, often drawn by advertising, file claims against a common defendant. This growing area of law has long been divisive. Lawyers for plaintiffs say the cases foster justice for those who have suffered at the hands of powerful people or institutions, such as the former Boy Scouts who were sexually abused, But critics say mass torts and the advertising often align with them can draw frivolous claims that are haphazardly vetted, and that the sheer volume of cases can overwhelm both the court system and the defense team. It'll be months, perhaps years, before settlements, dismissals, or verdicts resolve whether Mr. Combs was a serial predator. But his lawyers are already challenging the ways in which many of the cases have been collected. So again, we have a very high volume, very dubious cases. One of Mr. Combs' lawyers told a judge at a hearing in January, Mr. Combs denies sexually assaulting anyone, has pleaded not guilty to the criminal charges. His lawyer says that the deluge of suits is not evidence of guilt, only proof that some people seek to feed off financial settlements from a wealthy celebrity. One case was withdrawn last month after a plaintiff who said she had been raped by Mr. Combs and the rapper Jay-Z when she was 13 acknowledged having made mistakes in her account in an interview with NBC News. Her allegations have precipitated a contentious legal battle involving private investigators and courts in multiple states. In another Combs case, aspects of the anonymous man's lawsuit accused Mr. Combs of rape, including the year, were amended after inconsistencies emerged in his interview with CNN. So Mr. Busby says those issues should not affect other cases. I've always said that each case lives or dies on its own merits, he said in an interview. The increase in mass torts related to sexual abuse have been driven in parts by law established in the Me Too era that extended new opportunities for plaintiffs who did not bring claims during the typical statute of limitations. Reciprocity in industries, however, did not enter the Combs case because it was approached by people who said that they had been abused, according to Andrew Van Arsdale, the lawyer in charge of the company. It entered, he said, after he noted that an explosive lawsuit has been filed by former girlfriend of Mr. Combs and that the music mogul had settled it the next day. Predators just don't do it to one person, Mr. Van Arsdale said in an interview. They do it to many, many people. Within days, he said, his firm has taken out its first social media ad asking people about their interactions with Mr. Combs. So basically, he's saying that they didn't, his company, Reciprocity Industries, he's basically saying that they didn't entertain any Mr. Combs or P. Diddy Combs allegations from callers calling the 1-800 number hotline for sexual abuse calls, violent, sexual abuse calls, sexual harassment calls. They were entertaining those kind of calls until one of the calls was a massive call whereby it became an explosive lawsuit filed by the former girlfriend of Mr. Combs, and then the next day they settled. They had to settle it in court. So from that point on, I guess what the guy's saying, Mr. Van Arsdale is saying, from that point on, they started to field and take on more calls about Sean Combs's alleged sexual harassment and sexual abuse cases that he's been a victim of against women and men, of course. So he's been taking on they've been taking on those calls. They're actually fielding those calls. So that's why now they set up the hotline, the 1-800 number hotline for Diddy. Because like Mr. Van Arsdale says, predators like Diddy don't do it to one person, they do it to other people. So they start taking on those calls. They're taking on numerous calls. Like they said, over 25,000 calls. But who knows if all 25,000 of those calls are legitimate calls and true claims against Diddy. You never know. Some people, like I said, they can be making it up, like Diddy's lawyer is saying. They can be making it up for a quick payday from a wealthy man like Diddy. So that's the counter argument right there. So within days, he said his firm has taken his first social media ad asking people about their interactions with Mr. Combs. So the rise of the mass torts. So that's Mr. Van Arsdale sitting down there with his laptop. That's his laptop computer. So he's part of the that's a legal advertising firm. He's founded the Reciprocity Industries as a legal advertising firm. So over the past several years, it's grown into a legal call service center within about 70 intake agents answering phones. So it's mainly about the Diddy situation. So the legal landscape changed dramatically in 1977, where the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the first prohibition against lawyer advertising violated the First Amendment. Soon lawyers' faces and testimonials were popping up in newspapers and on television. Rules developed by the courts and the bars associations restrict lawyers, generally from people calling people injured in, saying a car crash to ask if they can represent themselves. But advertising a lawyer's services in a public forum, and in some cases tailoring the message to a particular group of potential plaintiffs, is allowed. Rules prohibit false or misleading ads. So disciplinary action for infractions is uncommon, experts say, but courts, disciplinary bodies do review ads in response to complaints. Advocates for mass tort reform, often lawyers who represent companies facing litigation, have sought more regulations on the content of ads and the role of third-party investors who help finance some claims with a huge number of plaintiffs. So spending on mass tort television advertising has averaged about $190 million per year over the past decade, according to Ex-Ante. That's a data analyst company. But social media has become the new frontier. It's so much so that it's so much easier and faster to reach more people, said Karen Beth Mendez, a lawyer who has been working on mass tort cases since the 1990s. Unlike class action lawsuits, it's a small number of plaintiffs that represent a large group of people, often with largely identical complaints. Mass torts are filed as many individual lawsuits that typically feature similar but factually distinct claims against the same defendants. So reciprocity, that's Mr. Van Arsdale's operates within a friend from a high school, a software engineer, does not actually fit a mass tort lawsuit. It assists them by collecting and assessing complaints and turning them over to client law firms or to his own law firm, which is a separate company, to litigate. Mr. Van Arsdale has been in the legal advertising business since 2006, viewing his whole career as devoted to getting people's access to the justice system. He decided to become a lawyer and passed the bar in 2018. Shortly after, he was asked to join his first several sexual abuse case, the mass tort in which Boy Scouts organizations was accused of failing to protect children. Mr. Van Arsdale and his colleagues took out television spots in search of potential plaintiffs. It took 3 weeks of ads to even get the first case. So as the calls and cases roll in, Mr. Van Arsdale hired more staff today. Today, Reciprocity employs roughly 70 employees to answer the phones 24/7 and more than others to further develop potential cases. Now, in the Combs case, 3 potential clients signed up after the first advertisement. It wasn't as big as we thought it was going to be. But then as soon as Mr. Combs was indicted and Mr. Van Arsdale's law firm took out another round of social media ads, the ad says, "The world is watching P. Diddy's case unfold," one read alongside the AI-generated image of Mr. Combs in jail. "If you've been silenced, now's the time to find your voice." So once Mr. Van Arsdale's law firm did that social media ad, which is AI generated, all of a sudden the contacts and everybody started flowing in. I guess a record number of people started calling that 800 hotline. But like I said, they were seeing over 25,000 calls, but you don't know which calls are actually legitimate calls in regards to the man and the woman being accused of sexual assault or sexual abuse or harassment from Mr. Diddy. So we don't know which is legit, which isn't legit, although they're getting a bunch of calls. So about a week later, Mr. Van Arsdale said Mr. Busby reached out. Years earlier, he said reciprocity has helped Mr. Busby with advertising on another mass tort case. A hard-charging lawyer, Mr. Busby built his career filing lawsuits on behalf of the oil and gas workers and won some eye-popping verdicts. Most recently, he secured settlements in more than 24 women. He accused the football player Deshaun Watson of sexual misconduct and massage appointments. Oh, I didn't even know Busby was defending or was Deshaun Watson's lawyer at the time. I didn't even know that. Okay, I didn't know that. So we started talking about Diddy. Mr. Van Arsdale recalled of their conversation in September. I said, well, we've got some cases. I think this is the real deal. Well, let's go. I like to work with you on those. That's how Busby and Van Arsdale met up. Van Arsdale, and then I guess from that time, they put the AI, like you mentioned earlier, they put the AI ad out just to create some buzz in regards to the it's like a social media ad. I call it a social media ad buzz. Create buzz from the social media ads, and I guess it drew a lot of calls. So I guess that's what him and Busby, Mr. Van Arsdale and Busby, got together, discussed those kind of strategies. It looks like the strategy's working because they're getting a lot of calls, over 25,000 calls, from what the article said. So as you know, Busby, his profile is big, likes Texas. So it takes 3 elevators to reach Mr. Busby's penthouse office on the 75th floor of the tallest building in Texas. Inside sharks are the decorative motive, a silver sculpture of one shark-shaped doorknob and a shark tattoo of Mr. Busby's right forearm. In Houston, where he ran for mayor in 2019, Mr. Busby is a well-known figure, largely because of his work, but also because of his penchant for spectacle. A former Marine captain, Mr. Busby caused a stir in 2017 by parking a World War II-era tank outside of his home in the city. On his ranch in northeast Texas, he kept hundreds of animals, including zebras and camels, that draw the attention of passing drivers. His clients have included former Governor Rick Barry, who later served as the best man when he married several years ago. When disaster strikes, Mr. Barry often enters the legal fray. He filed suits after Hurricane Harvey, after a deadly crowd surge at the Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival, and after the fatal implosion of the Titan submersible, in which he represents the family of Paul Henry Nargalat, a marine expert who died in the disaster. Mr. Busby says he gets a lot of calls from people that have worked their cases up to a point where they need somebody to come try them, like they can't do that part of it, and that's the part I do the best. So he's basically what they're saying. Mr. Busby's the cleanup man. He's the cleanup man who comes in there and cleans up all the loose ends that are pretty much complex. He goes up there, works the cases as a cleanup man, and basically gets the job done to help out his client, or to help out his client. So colleagues describe Mr. Busby as the unrelenting litigator who, as a businessman, can choose to accept only cases he believes in. So when he gets to say no anytime he wants, Chad Pickerton, who once worked at Mr. Busby's firm. 6 days after Mr. Busby and Mr. Van Arsdale agreed to work together on the Combe cases, they held a news conference in which Mr. Busby announced they had 120 clients who intended to sue the music mogul. Speaking in front of the Sun, featuring reciprocity, 1-800 number. Biggest secret is in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world, Mr. Busby told those gathered. Within 24 hours, the hotline blew up. Roughly 12,000 calls broke our system, Mr. Van Arsdale said. Lawyers for Mr. Combs have called the news conference a publicity stunt, and Mr. Busby's 1-800 attorney. Sean Combs has never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor, they said in a statement. That's Diddy's defense team. No number of lawsuits, sensationalized allegations, or media theatrics will change that reality. So that's the Montana call center. That's the call center where they field all the calls. The 1-800 number call. That's the 1-800 number hotline. That's the hotline for all the Diddy calls, for sex trafficking calls, sexual abuse calls, sexual assault calls. They field them all at that call center in Montana, at the call center, where they say they hire over 70. You have 70 people there. Billings, Montana. Yep, that's the call center right there. So complaints about Sean Diddy Combs to the reciprocity industry often start with thin calls to the rooms filled with cubicles known as the floor. From there, they progress to a system that Mr. Van Arsdale said ferrets out false claims. So you're going to have scam artists out there, right? He said in an interview, you're going to have crank calls. That's just part of it, right? But you need to have the proper process and procedure in place to try to stomp them out. Yeah, so like I said earlier, that not every call is a legitimate, truthful, and honest call about claims that men or women were victims of Diddy assaulting them, sexually assaulting them, victims of sex trafficking, victims of abuse. Now all those calls are legitimate. So that's what they're saying. That's what I mentioned earlier. So a questionnaire from a call is reviewed by a second employee who decides whether to pass it on to litigation support. Their staffers gather more information and test whether the account is consistent. And that's what they have to do. They have to do that. So that way they can look at the authentication of the call. So that has to be done. They can't look at the call as and assume from face value that it's a legitimate call. This is the process that they have to go through. So people who respond to social media ads online are called by agents who walk them through a questionnaire. Some contacts have come in through an Arizona law firm that is behind a website urging users to see if you qualify to join the Combs litigation. Firms have paid a referral fee for successful claims. Claims that survive the weed out process are sent to Mr. Van Arsdale's law firm, which is about 15-minute drive away. Their lawyers seek further corroboration, including witness testimony and police or medical records. All of the more than 26,000 contacts related to Combs cases are organized in a database. So I showed you earlier, we showed you the call center in Billings, Montana. They have a cubicle, and they have a computer screen, a flat screen computer screen. And they got their database. They put everything in that database, I guess, on the computer screen. They got some sort of database there that are organized. So more than 600 came to be viewed as a potential case, Mr. Van Arsdale said. Others, he said, were often found to be pranksters, who people have viewed themselves witnesses or have called to complain about something else. Some 200 files were sent to Mr. Busby's firm, where Busby said his lawyers and former police personnel who continue to vet the claims. Y'all hit the like button, hit the like and subscribe button as we continue into this case, or into the Sean Combs 800 hotline. Hit the like and subscribe. As a typical in mass tort cases, the lawyer handling the Combs lawsuit would collect a portion of any money awarded in a verdict or settlement, typically 40%, as Mr. Van Arsdale said. Reciprocity charged fees to the law firm that hire it and uses that income to support its outreach. So in the Boy Scouts case, Mr. Van Arsdale and co-counselors represent roughly 11,000 plaintiffs with accounts of sexual abuse. Several years ago, one of the institution's insurance carriers, Century Indemnity Company, described reciprocity in court papers as a claims aggregator and questioned the scrutiny of claims, its use of financial incentives, and the accuracy of ads it was using. As evidence, it's submitted an affidavit by former reciprocity employee who said she has been paid weekly bonuses based on how many claimants she signed up to start. So $200 if she signed up 20. Experts say the payments of such incentives is ethical gray area, though they were not aware of any specific prohibition. Mr. Van Arsdale said other call centers use incentives, but that he got rid of them at his company because they had become a distraction. Same kind of rigorous vetting process that we have and exists today exited them. So as you know, an accuser became a defendant, a woman who accused Jay-Z, born Sean Carter, and Mr. Combs of raping her when she was 13 years old, first gave her account to reciprocity last fall after responding to a Facebook ad. So basically they're saying here, as the world found out eventually, when the 13-year-old girl accused Jay-Z and Sean Carter of rape, again, eventually that was thrown out. That case was thrown out. So they're saying here that she put her case forward and put a complaint through reciprocity last fall. So she did respond to a Facebook ad and decided to go and basically put her claim and complaint through the Facebook ad, according to Mr. Van Arsdale. So again, in the subsequent lawsuits, she described being driven to a party after the 2000 MTV Music Video Awards, where she's given a drink, felt woozy, ended up in a bedroom. Said Mr. Combs and Celebrity A, later identified as Mr. Carter, took turns assaulting her there. But some details in the accounts later unraveled, as we know. It became a dead end. This case was a dead end. Again, you all know about this case. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't go far. She had to drop the charges. She had to change her story. And then eventually, like I said, the charges were dropped. Everybody knows about this case. So there's basically reviewing that case from that was discussed before. So yeah, that's basically what it is. So at that time, Carter accused Busby of blackmailing him. So that's basically. I remember the 13-year-old girl, Busby was her lawyer. So at that time, Mr. Carter, as you know, and I guess everybody should know by now that he accused Busby of blackmail, using blackmail against me. So that's why she kind of caved in at that point. Later on, she caved in, and then she changed her story. And like I said, the case got dropped. From the 2000 MTV Award incident, it got dropped. So that's basically. So you guys know about that already. That's basically what they're talking about. But Mr. Busby's claiming after Diddy said, after Sean Combs said basically that he accused Busby of blackmail. Busby's, in his defense, said that such mediation efforts are standard practice, and insisted that the complaint had been vetted properly. So he said he's saying that he vetted the 13-year-old properly. Carter's saying you're trying to blackmail me. So I guess that's where it stands. And then he said that he vetted properly by his lawyers and retired police detective. So Busby saying he called it outrageous to expect someone victimized as a minor to have perfect recall more than 2 decades later. February, Mr. Busby withdrew the woman's suit, as we all know. So that like I said, that case didn't go anywhere. It was a dead end, pretty much a dead end case. So last week, Mr. Carter sued the woman and 2 of her lawyers, Mr. Busby and David Forney. Court papers submitted Mr. Carter, a private investigator, said that she visited the woman, as you guys know, on her front porch in Alabama, and where she said the woman admitted her rape claim against Mr. Carter was false. So you guys know that was a dead case. So they're pretty much, it's pretty much, like I said, they're pretty much talking about a case that was eventually thrown out. We all know about this case. Yeah. So more than 50 lawsuits accusing Mr. Combs of sexual abuse extend beyond those vetted and filed by Mr. Busby. More than a dozen other lawyer representatives, clients who say that they were victimized by Mr. Combs, and most of the plaintiffs have sued under their own names. So it validates their own story to hear that they weren't the only ones. Late last month, Mr. Busby filed several more lawsuits from anonymous plaintiffs who accused Mr. Combs of sexual abuse on violence. One man said he was raped at a hotel when he was 14 years old. Mr. Van Arsdale said that the ads surrounding the Combs case have run their course and now they've been pulled, but the hotline still gets calls. So basically they pulled the ad, the social media ad that we talked about earlier. It was pulled, but they're still getting calls. They're still flooded with calls. So most recently, the law firm, that's Van Arsdale's law firm, had an ad campaign addressed towards people who feel that they were harmed by three brothers who have pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking charges in New York. So that's basically it for the article. That's it. It's a long article. That's all. My thoughts on this. I have never seen a celebrity like Diddy have a 1-800 number hotline dedicated to him for the wrong reasons. I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen that. I think he's the first celebrity to have a hotline, an 800 hotline number dedicated to him in these sort of circumstances. I've never heard of seeing that in my life. Not even R. Kelly. Not even R. Kelly had that. R. Kelly didn't have that. Russell Simmons didn't have that. Epstein didn't have that. None of these guys had it. It's only Diddy. But I guess he's got that for the wrong reasons. So I guess he's making history for the wrong reasons. That's crazy. Man, dedicating that to Diddy. Like I said before, the calls that they're getting flooded with all these calls, over 25,000 calls according to the article. Some of these calls are not even legitimate. They're not legitimate. That's what they mentioned in the article. They have to vet. These calls have to be vetted. They got to vet the calls out. They have to look at the calls to see if it's how authentic the call is. The authenticity of the call. They have to look at the authenticity of the call to see if it's actually truthful, legit. So because some of them calls, like I said, could be prank calls, crank calls, you know. So you gotta go through that whole process. Man, they said even that 13-year-old that 13-year-old woman or that 13-year-old child who called that hotline through the Facebook ad, she put her complaint through there last year, hoping to get a big payday from the case, and eventually that didn't go anywhere. Like I said, it didn't go nowhere. So, I mean, yeah, that's insane. A 1-800 number dedicated to Diddy. Oh man, the Diddy hotline. Like I said, but like the lawyers are saying, Diddy's defense team saying it's all a publicity stunt. That's what they claim. Man. Oh man, I tell you. It's just, I guess, like they're saying, it's just to create some sort of buzz, and let it create buzz and let it go viral on social media so everybody can be talking about it. But I mean, hey, it's working, man. It's working. People, I mean, they're getting a lot of calls. The strategy is working. Again, that's the strategy. Busby and Arsdale, the founder of that firm, the law firm. I'm sorry, the founder of the ad center, the call center there. That's the strategy. That's the strategy that they had. And look, see, it worked. The strategy worked. It's creating a buzz. It's creating a major buzz now with all these calls. Man, that's something else. He's the first. He's like the first celebrity to get that. I don't know of any other celebrity getting that. I don't know of none. Russell Simmons, R. Kelly, Epstein. None of those guys get that. None of them guys had that this distinct honor to get a 1-800 number, a hotline attached to their name. Call the hotline. Put your claim in. If you've been sex trafficked, if you claim a sexual abuse, verbal, any kind of abuse, any kind of claim, harassment claims, any sort of claim against Diddy, call the number. Crazy, yeah. Man, that's something else. But like I said in other videos, we're gonna see. I mean, the case, the trial starts May the 6th. May the 6th is when everything starts. And May the 6th is right around the corner. So I mean, this is when all everything comes out. Everything's gonna come out little by little. Day 1, day 2 trial, day 3, you get all the stuff's gonna come out day by day. From the day that trial starts, everything's just gonna come out. Yeah, it's something else. That's all I gotta say about this. I have nothing else to say about this. That's it. I got nothing else to say. I got nothing else to say. That's it. Let me know what you think. Hit the like and subscribe button, and let me know in the comment section what do you think about this 800 number for Diddy, attached to Diddy, P Diddy. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this? You think it's a publicity stunt? Well, what do you think about it? And again, hit the like and subscribe button for more entertainment news and for Celebrity Gossip TV. Until next time, take care. Peace. I'm out.